question I have gotten variations of is someone who's a high school senior or their child is a high school senior and they have received admissions offers, but they do not have funding or the funding is inadequate. And the question is, what do I do now? I've also had variations of that question where it's someone who is already in college, so maybe they're in their first year, and they also do not have funding or they don't have adequate funding. And the question is what to do. So if you're a senior, right now you have admissions offer, but you don't have funding. The next thing that most people start doing right now is to start looking for scholarships. Now, the downside about doing that right now is that, number one, most of the scholarships that are out there are small dollar amounts. So you're going to have to put in, and I'm saying you, meaning the student, would have to put in so much effort into cobbling together so many of those scholarships to try to fill whatever the hole is. Now, it all depends on how big the hole is, right? If the hole is a few $1,000s, then that's going to be great. If the hole is tens of thousands of dollars, that's going to be a lot of small scholarships that this person would have to be applying to be able to plug that hole. So that's one downside. Now, and that is one reason why for students in our program, I do not recommend that they depend so much on many of those outside scholarships. That being said, there are some high dollar amount scholarships, right? Like one that comes to mind is the Jackie Robinson Scholarship, for example, right? Or the Jack Kent Cook Scholarship, for example, right? Those are high dollar amounts, and so they're significant. But usually those deadlines are earlier in the year, so many of them are January, February. So they might have, those deadlines have passed now, right? So I encourage students that they can apply to those outside scholarships, those big dollar amounts, because then you're getting enough for the effort that you're going to put in. Under normal circumstances, if a student comes to me or comes to us earlier in the cycle, way before now, what we encourage them to do is the best source of funding is the school to which they are applying. So if they are going to be looking for funding and they need scholarships, then we're going to try to make sure that we're helping them build their college list to include only schools that will fund them, right? And so that way, the bulk of their funding is coming from the college itself. And that's way more reliable than the outside scholarships. Now, when students want to apply to outside scholarships, I don't prevent them from doing it. I just tell them this is going to be a lot of effort. Apply to the $2,000 ones as opposed to the $500 ones. So it's all about how much time and effort you're going to put in. Now, for those who are already in their first year. So now, if let's say the senior goes through all of this and does not get as much money or as much funding as they would like after they've gone through all these outside scholarships and after they've asked the college, because sometimes you should also ask the college to say, are there pockets of money that are not necessarily advertised that I can qualify for, that I can apply for? After having done all of that, if it's still not enough, the option will be, okay, start your first year, maybe take out loans or whatever it is to plug the difference. But then I would encourage people to think about, if you're not wedded to the school, maybe you want to think about transferring. And then in that instance, come into our program as a transfer student for your second year. And then we'll try to build you a college list that includes only schools that will fund you, even as a transfer student.